Hi there, welcome back, and welcome back to the first of 3 videos dealing with the thorny issue of what to do when things don't go to plan. And this happens, this will happen with hypnosis. In fact, one of the things that I often stress when I teach hypnosis is not a step-by-step recipe. There's never any script that you can follow, never anything that you can do that when you do it and when you apply it guarantees a particular outcome. In fact, one of the hallmarks of a really good hypnotist is the ability to be really, really flexible, to riff off the feedback coming from the client, coming from the subject, and change course and adapt, and to do so seamlessly and fluidly. So we're going to be dealing with that in the next 3 videos. Now, this first video, when I made this video, I've been watching it back, and to be honest with you, I'm being a bit cocky in the video. I'm sort of saying, you know, I hardly ever fail. And in a way, at the time, that was true, and it partly would have been true because I wouldn't have been taking big enough risks. I have an approach to doing hypnosis, and I'm going to share some of this with you over the next 3 videos, which means that by utilizing feedback, by setting frames very, very carefully, I can pretty much set it up so something always happens and I can always take credit for that, so there's no fail involved. And I talk about that in the home study course, the no fail protocol. That's what that's all about. But still, looking back, I am being a bit cocky in this video, so please forgive me for that. There's still really, really good information here. This is the first of 3 videos on this subject, so I hope you enjoy it.
Because what I want to talk about is, what if it doesn't work? What if you're doing hypnosis, you go for a hypnotic phenomenon, and it doesn't work, and you end up with egg on your face? Now, for me, I've had a great 48 hours. I've found myself teaching hypnosis without trance yesterday to a group of hypnotherapists here in the UK, 12 in total, and it was a wonderful session. I really enjoyed myself, and there were a lot of interesting questions came out from that. Also today, I've had 2 hypnotherapists ring me up and ask me about the forthcoming training, which is coming up this coming weekend. And there seems to be a theme that's come out of this, that a lot of people have a degree of anxiety about whether or not the hypnosis is going to work or not. Now, with the old classic trance method of hypnosis, I remember when I first started out in hypnotherapy, I'd be working with a client and they'd have their eyes closed, and I'd be wondering inside my mind, are they really hypnotised? Are they in trance? And you know, the funny thing was, is usually they were wondering inside their own mind, am I really hypnotised? Am I really in trance? And this is part of what led me to develop this hypnosis without trance method, so I could provide real and undeniable experience for them, so they could go and say, yes, something happened here. But of course the big question is, what if you go for something like a hand stick or a card stick or a name amnesia or a number amnesia or invisibility or anything, and it doesn't work? Of course you're going to end up with egg on your face. Well, that's not necessarily true. It really does depend on how you handle that moment. But I'm going to back up for a moment here before I talk about that. It has been a long time since I have failed with hypnosis, failed to get hypnotic phenomena. And the reason for this is because the way I do hypnosis, the whole hypnosis without trance approach, is built on taking small incremental steps towards your goal and checking at each one of those steps that the process is taking with the client, that the person is being drawn into the hypnotic loop. So I never get to a point where I issue a big challenge for a hypnotic phenomena and have it fail, because I would have been testing every step of the way. Now, this is a concept I haven't really had the opportunity to get into on the blog because it's a little bit more in depth. It involves understanding the whole hypnosis without trance process from beginning to end, and it's something that gets covered on the new Hypnosis Mastery program. But what I want to say is this: be aware that there is nothing magical about the words you say or even the things you do as such. So it's not a case of saying the right words and doing the right things and everything will automatically fall into place. What you need to be doing when you're working with a subject, with a client, with a participant in the hypnosis process, what you need to be doing is paying attention and testing every step of the way. You need your eyes open, your ears open. You need to be looking for green flags that say everything is running smoothly. Okay, so I'm just going to pause here for a second because I've just mentioned green flags, and this relates to a concept in hypnosis without trance
called flag testing. Very, very quickly, very, very simply, as you're doing hypnosis, especially when you're building up, especially when you're engineering the first loop, the idea is to perform a number of flag tests. These are a number of activities you do, maybe move somebody about, make a request of them, and you monitor their response to see how fluid their response is. A very fluid response would be a green flag, and a very sort of hesitant response would be a red flag. And these are things you're watching out for. Lots of green flags says it's probably good to go. Lots of red flags says, warning, this may not be working out so well. There are many, many different types of flag tests, many, many different ways of flag testing. I can't really go into these here. Suffice it to say that that information is available on the Hypnosis Mastery Program if that's something you'd like to look into more deeply.
When you come to a point where you want to test a hypnotic loop you've generated, I recommend that you test incrementally. You start with a soft test and then move on to a harder test. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're doing a hand stick. Look at the process of how I do the hand stick. You've seen the hand stick tutorial on this blog. If you haven't, go back and watch it. Notice when I do the hand stick process, I don't set up the loop and then say try and lift your hand, find it sticks to the table, because that's a big hard test. I go for soft tests first. So the first thing I say is, as you imagine that your hand sticking to the table, what's more stuck, your fingers or your palm? You remember that? That binding question? That's actually a test. At that point, they're going to say the fingers or the palm. In which case, I've got some verbal feedback, what I call a reality report, that tells me they are being drawn into the loop. But I haven't actually challenged it by suggesting any attempt to unstick the hand or anything. But I've got that feedback. They've given me verbal confirmation that something is happening. Now, interestingly, when people commit to something verbally, they tend to be consistent with it. So that's a powerful tool. Once I've got that, if they say the fingers are more stuck, I'll say the fingers are more stuck. Feel those fingers sticking more. And as you feel those fingers sticking more, go ahead, try and lift one of those fingers as it's stuck more now, and find your palm sticks even more. Try and lift your finger and your palm sticks even more. Now this is a next level test, you see, because even if they do lift the finger, I haven't failed with that test, because I said try and lift the finger and the palm sticks, so they could lift the finger and the palm could be sticking even more. I haven't had an out and out fail, but if the finger doesn't lift when they try and lift the finger, then I've got a really big green flag. So I can then say what's more stuck now. So I second test, they say the palm often it switches over from the fingers to the palm or the palm to the fingers. So now I've kind of escalated the test, I've got more commitment, I've got more verbal commitment from them, so I'll get more consistency with them staying in the loop. And now I can challenge harder. I can say, okay, your palm's stuck more. Now notice, as your palm continues to stick, you can go ahead, you can try and lift your hand, find your whole hand sticks more solidly the more you try and lift it. Now, if I've got those green flags, those ticks in the boxes on the way up, it's highly unlikely at this point they're just going to lift the hand, because they've committed to the loop verbally. They will have consistency with this. This is Cialdini's principle of commitment and consistency. So by the time I get to that hard challenge, I'm really confident that they're already in there. They're already in that reality. When I see that, only when I see that will I escalate even more strongly and say, go ahead, really try, you're a strong guy. In fact, grab that wrist with your other hand and try and lift that. And then I go for a really, really strong test. So do you see how I escalate from a very soft test to a hard test? A lot of people dive straight in with a hard test with their fingers crossed, hope it works, and it doesn't. I'm not going to say anything more about this, but whatever you're doing in hypnosis, look for opportunities to generate altered realities, to generate hypnotic phenomena, but test from soft to hard.
So what we've just looked over is the concept of escalating, particularly when you're setting up the first loop, this is especially relevant, of escalating through a process of going from a soft test through a medium test to a hard test, all the time whilst pulling them into the feedback loop, pulling them into the hypnotic loop, and utilising that Robert Cialdini's commitment and consistency principle. By doing this, you maximise your chance of the loop taking, and you stay tapped into the feedback you're getting all the time. So you get a sense ahead of time if things are not going to work out or not. However, this doesn't guarantee that you won't get any surprises. Sometimes you do, and that's what the next video is going to be about. When a curveball comes in, something you don't expect, how do you respond to that?